Hey everyone, this is Charlie Shrem, and you're listening to Untold Stories. This is a show where we dive deep into the lives and personal histories of some of crypto's most influential leaders and find out how the crypto movement truly came to be. Let's dive in. This episode of Untold Stories is sponsored by Scott Offord, the creator of crypto mining. Scott's a broker of ASIC mining gear and helps people buy and sell their miners. He created a Bitcoin mining profitability calculator and an interactive ASIC hardware comparison chart that you can find at cryptomining.tools. It's the only free online tool for calculating profitability and days to ROI. That includes the impact of the Bitcoin block reward halving. The calculator lets you put in your estimated uptime to give you a more realistic profit projections. So check it out and find Scott on Telegram and Twitter at OFFORDSCOTT. That's OFFORDSCOTT. Links are in the show notes. This episode of Untold Stories is sponsored by eToro, the smartest crypto trading platform and one of the largest in the world with over $1 trillion in trading volume per year. U.S. customers can trade the most popular crypto assets with low and transparent fees. And if you're not ready to trade yet, practice building your crypto portfolio with the eToro $100,000 virtual trading feature. Best of all, you can connect with 11 million other eToro traders around the world, myself included, to discuss trading, charts, and all things crypto. Create an account at eToro.com, links in the show notes, and build your crypto portfolio the smart way. Untold Stories is powered by Blockworks Group, the only event and podcast production company I trust. For access to the premier digital asset conferences and in-depth podcast content, visit them at blockworksgroup.io. That's blockworksgroup.io. I promise you will not be disappointed. The past is not dead. It's not even past. This quote has been in my head all weekend since I watched the documentary about Anderson Cooper and Gloria Vanderbilt. She says it a lot, and I didn't really understand what it meant. So I spent the weekend kind of like playing it over my head and doing some research, and it just rung a tone with me that I wanted to understand how this quote applies to crypto. The past is not dead, it's not even past. The way I took that quote is that we're constantly making memories, and we're constantly growing and building and learning. And there's no such thing as the present or the past. It just is. For example, the fact that I'm even talking to you right now, that's already in the past. So if we're talking 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, it doesn't really matter in the longer scheme of things. The reason I bring this up now is because the industry of crypto is always growing, and it's building and it's evolving. And yes, sure, there are early adopters who got involved in 2011, 2012, but my listeners, you guys know that I interview people from 2015, and I interview people who got involved in the space even 6 months ago. It's very important because these are people that really put an impression, like stamping on metal, in the future of crypto. And we have to remember at the same time that markets are efficient when we allow them to be. And when we allow our own market and our own industry to grow and to create its own fate, that allows us to really become who we want to be. My next guest, Ian Balina, is very important in this space because he got involved not in the early days, but only a few years ago. But that attitude that he brought, the hustler attitude, the we're going to do whatever we need to get done and to build and to grow, to create content and to bring on the next wave of crypto enthusiasts and lovers in the space is something that I think will be remembered for a very long time. Ian, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure, Charlie. I'm so honored to be here.
So we've spent the weekend together, and we played some poker last night, and it was a lot of fun. And I got to know you a little bit, and I'm excited to get to know you more. What was interesting, and I remember our conversation sitting down waiting for a table for brunch yesterday, and we were chatting, and I asked you, what are some pivotal moments of your life that you remember that really made you who you are? And these moments are something that you remember every single day when someone asks you the same question. Do you remember some of those moments?
Yes, so many things come to mind. I would say the first one was January 2018. I was on vacation in Tokyo, Japan. It was me and my good friend Uga, who's now my business partner with the 100X Advisors, and my coworker from IBM, Andrew. And this was my first time in Japan, first time in Asia. As a kid, I grew up watching anime, playing video games, Dragon Ball Z, all that stuff. So for me to finally travel to Japan on my own as an adult, I was like, you know what? I made it. Right? I was in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. This was probably 60 floors up. My entire wall was clear glass screen, and I had the skyline of Tokyo in front of me.
Took a deep breath.
So I would just breathe that in. I was like, wow, I'm here. I'm really here. At that time, I was about 27, 28. I was making almost $500,000 working at IBM. I felt like I was on top of the world.
Oh, so this wasn't even crypto yet.
I'm thinking
crypto. this is the crypto. The crypto thing.
Prior to crypto. And I said, you know what? So many millennials would just savor this moment and want to be here.
They would die to be there.
Yeah, they would die to be there. But to me, I realized, despite having all this success, despite making so much money at a young age, I had to go back to America. And I told myself, my visa gives me 90 days to be here. Why do I have to go back? And that's when it dawned on me that it wasn't about making money anymore. It was about making my own money and taking back control of my time. Because even though I was 28, making almost $500,000, I still had somebody controlling where I went and what I did. And that didn't really sit well on me. So I went back to America after vacation, and I said, you know what? By the end of the year, by December 2018, I'm going to quit my job at IBM and be self-employed, no matter what. So I basically gave myself an ultimatum and said, no matter what, I'm going to quit my job. Even if I have to be homeless and go back and stay with my parents, I'm still going to do it. So I basically began burning the ships, kind of like that famous explorer Cortez. I told myself, you know what? Let me downsize all my expenses and just focus on my side hustles. So at that time, I was doing things like Amazon FBA. I was making $2,000 to $4,000 a month just importing stuff from China.
What's a side hustle?
A side hustle is something I would do on the side, like my weekends, outside the 9 to 5 hours to make extra income. Right? So to me, even though I was making good money at IBM, I wanted to make my own money. So the goal for me was to make my own money on the side on the weekends to a point where it was close to what I was making at IBM, or at least over 6 figures annually, so that I could quit and be comfortable and still be able to do what I enjoy doing. So I was doing the Amazon thing. I had a video production company I was doing on the side. I'll do that every weekend, filming conferences, filming events. Even at one point, I made more money 1 month from doing that than I did from working at IBM. About $7,000 in 1 month. Wow. And I also had a startup I was doing, which was kind of towards the tail end of its career. Wasn't really becoming that successful, but it was a iPhone application. It was on-demand freelancer marketplace. So think like Fiverr, like Uber for freelancers.
Like Gig and all these sites. Yeah.
It was catering towards the gig economy.
But why? I mean, so you want to be financially independent, but one would think that having a great job at IBM, one of the largest companies in the world, and making that much money is, financial independence. What motivated you to continue doing?
I would say my first 3 years at IBM were great. I was working as a sales engineer, working under IBM Analytics brand. But my last year, when I began making more money, I changed from being your typical sales engineer and became a sales executive. Right, so I had lots of Fortune 500 accounts that I was responsible for. I had to close a quota of over $2 million every 6 months in IBM software sales. And the sales world was so cutthroat, totally different from being an engineer. Something I wasn't really used to. Even though I did well, the stress it gave me wasn't really something I wanted to be in. I felt it was very toxic. And it was so toxic that I thought if I stayed in this environment for 5 to 10 more years, I would start turning gray. I would start growing gray hair. And I knew that this would kill me, right? So I knew that I really had to build the life that I wanted that didn't really have as much stress as I had at IBM. Right, so I was doing all that. I began doing Airbnb. Sorry, I was doing that for a while, Airbnb for a while, and I was doing crypto. And I said, you know what? I have all these different side hustles I'm doing. I'm sure somebody can get value from this, so let me start making content. Right, so I launched my channel, Diary of a Made Man, on YouTube. Began putting out content. At that time, I had a following of about 500 subscribers.
Before you get to that point, I have two questions. Most people listening, they are good at something and they want to be able to create content for that. But how do you get to the first step? I mean, how do you even get 500 subscribers? 500 subscribers is a lot. How do you even get to that point? Because once you get to 500 or 1,000, then you can hockey stick up and something can go viral. But how do you just jump to that point? If someone's good at, I don't know, knitting cat bandanas or something, and they want to make a YouTube video out of it.
I mean, I would say it takes a long time, I'll be honest. And you have to just not care. Right? You have to be almost delusional in a way.
Isn't that how that works? You care so much, but the more you pretend to not care, that's when you become successful.
Yeah, because I would say the first 500 people were probably from my prior channel where I would just vlog, where I began just putting out vlogs on YouTube where I would travel different places and make videos and add some music and stuff, and maybe just kind of do like a short journal on it online. And began with just friends, like maybe like 10 friends. Then after a while, we went to like 100, then 500 over like 2 years. Right? So, yeah, it took a long time. But after a while, I basically found my sweet spot.
Okay.
Which was crypto. I did a video just kind of explaining Bitcoin and Ethereum to beginners. That was about 40 minutes to an hour long.
What type of videos was it? Was it like exciting and fun and like kind of quirky?
Yeah, it was a very in-depth video.
Okay.
I filmed it in a baseball field.
A baseball field?
Yeah, baseball field close to a place I was staying at.
With a camera? Like, were you running the bases?
No. So I just put the camera on home plate. I was basically by the pitching mound.
Okay.
And I just began rambling for an hour. But I had done my research. I had some notes.
And no one wanted to use the baseball fields? Like, no one wanted to play baseball on it?
At that time, no, this was like on a Wednesday at like 4 p.m.
Okay.
Most kids were probably in school. People at work. One of the perks of having a job where you work at home.
Why baseball field?
Because I knew that changing the scenery in the background would keep people more engaged, or something that was different, right? And
I need to start doing these podcasts on my boat.
Yeah, that would be great, right? Boating with Charlie.
Yeah, balling with Balina.
Yeah, so I just kind of filmed that. Then that was the most well-received video I did with my audience.
Okay.
And they said, you know what? All this other side hustle stuff is good. We want to know more about Bitcoin and Ethereum. So a friend of mine who I'd known for a while from DC, he had built up a large following on YouTube. He had over 100,000 subscribers teaching people how to rap. Right? So he told me, when you get your first big video, for me at that time, 5,000 views or so
I can rap.
Was pretty good. He said, make the same content, double down. So I said, okay, cool. My next content was an ICO video. And that one went viral. Right? That ended up getting over 350,000 views. And that kind of put me in alignment to end up quitting my job by September 2018. Right? So kind of fast forwarding through my whole story. Right? The other point that was pretty big for me, I was in a hotel room in Boston. It was 4 a.m. in the hotel room, and I was up on my computer working. At this point, I had built a pretty decently sized community. I had about 2,500 people or so in my Telegram group. And my YouTube channel was probably 5,000 to 10,000 at that time.
Wow.
And my community was getting so big to a point people said, you know what?
Very active group, too.
Yes, I was very engaged. People said, hey, Ian, you know what? We want to have a private group. Right? This group is getting too big. We want something more intimate. And we're willing to pay you for it. And to me at that time, I didn't really want to have multiple groups. So I said, you know what? Not right now. Then people in my community began to fork off and create their own groups. And then they would start doing OTC deals and get scammed. Then they would all come back to me and complain.
But your name was on it. Or they forked from your group, so
Yeah,
it's still
yes.
your brand reputation.
Yeah, so my brand was still tied to it indirectly, right? And I said, you know what? I'm tired of this. Let me just make the private group. So I spent up like 1 or 2 hours, launched a Patreon, a private Patreon group, and I pushed send to publish the page, and I sent out the alert to my community. I had probably 5 different tiers, from private alerts to my spreadsheet, to a private Telegram group, to a private video call group, to a private one-on-one call group. And in about 1 to 2 hours, it's sold out.
Really?
Yeah. And so I pushed send, and I was planning to just go to sleep. But when I saw the subscriptions rolling in, I said, holy cow.
How much money came in that first 24 hours?
So actually in the first 3 hours, it sold out, and I basically had subscriptions for about 60 grand a month.
Wow.
And I said, holy shit, I can quit my job.
Where did you learn how to sell?
I would say two ways. In college, when I was an entrepreneur, launching my own companies. So this isn't my first foray into entrepreneurship. So having to take an idea and sell it to the world and have people believe in you, go out there and pitch at business competitions. It really taught me to really break down an idea and make it easy for people to understand, right? So that's the first place I learned to sell, is just being an entrepreneur. The other place I learned to sell was with IBM, right? So I worked there for 4 years, but the first 1 year in IBM, they take you through what's known as IBM Summit. It's basically global sales school.
It's like the farm.
Yeah. So for 1 year, they pay you a full salary to just go through IBM college on how to sell. And that really taught me a lot, to a point I became very successful at it. I ended up making the IBM 100% Sales Club, which is being one of the best sales engineers in the world.
What do you get for that?
They flew me to the Bahamas for a conference. They gave me a nice bonus that year, right? And for me, that was pretty cool, right? So, I mean, IBM taught me a lot about how to sell large value and high-priced items.
Are you born with the ability to sell, or is it something that you learn over time?
Learn.
Okay, and you have to be fearless, basically. You have to not give a shit in order to be able to sell.
Yes, absolutely.
But I have a question. I have a lot of questions. This is my show. Tell me if I'm wrong. This is like a true or false question. People that grow up in school and have low self-esteem, like myself, and low self-confidence, going through school and having to create their own confidence, are better salesmen when they're adults.
Yes, absolutely. I believe so. I mean, myself as well, right? I mean, I was very introverted growing up. I was an engineer. Didn't really have, besides school and soccer, didn't really have much of a social life, right? I come from a very strict African family from Uganda, and to them it was all about school and school. Everything else didn't really mean anything, right?
So tell me, so you moved here with your father?
Yes.
From Uganda.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 8 years old, moved to Pennsylvania to State College.
This is so interesting, because I know so many people that go to Pennsylvania when they move to this country. Why Pennsylvania?
My dad was pursuing his doctorate at Penn State. So he went there for 4.5 years.
Like, that's your first impression of America, is Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I mean, because we thought we were going to like New York or LA.
Yeah,
like,
that's what everyone thinks.
We thought we were going to Hollywood, would have gold in the streets,
Hills,
skyscrapers, rich and famous people. And we land in the middle of nowhere.
And you're hanging out with the Amish people.
Yeah, and we're like, this is America?
I lived around there for 2 years. That's the breadbasket of the country. Great food, but nothing else really to do there.
But I mean, amazing people, like very friendly, very down to earth. And it was definitely quite the experience, but I had lots of culture shock, right? So here I am, this kid from Uganda coming here with an African accent, trying to fit in, different culture. And it definitely took me a while to adjust, right? It definitely, I think, made me even more reserved than I was before.
Okay.
Right?
But now you're the complete opposite.
Yeah, no, but it took me a while, right? Kind of like, as you said, right? It took me a while to really get out of my shell. And I think that really happened when I went to college and really just had to take big risks and fail, right? I think because in college, I was there for undergrad and grad school.
Yeah.
Those 6 years really taught me a lot about just self-belief, right? That's when I began reading all the self-help books. I read so many books, and I was probably averaging a book a week, right? Because unlike most people in college who were commuting, boarding on campus, I was there on a merit scholarship at George Washington in D.C. And my parents couldn't really afford everything, right? So to save money, I had to commute from school. So this is something I don't think I've told it anywhere else, right? That's why we have Untold Stories.
Yeah.
So every single day, 5 to 6 days a week, I would take the metro from Maryland to DC, 1 hour each way. So 2 hours a day. And I would kill that time by just listening to audiobooks, podcasts. And I learned so much because it really became my educational time, right? So, and I was going through so many different books that I really began to improve as a person, right? So imagine doing that for 5 to 6 times a week for 6 years.
How long was the commute?
An hour. It was about 45 minutes to an hour each way.
Alone,
right? So from when I was 17 to like 22, 23.
and you're going to a school where most kids are dropped off by chauffeurs or their parents.
Yes, yeah, most kids were rich, right? So, and that was kind of an adjustment for me, right? Because people would pull up to the school in BMWs with a coupe or the drop down, right? And here I was, I didn't even have a license yet.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, it definitely made me kind of hungry, right?
That's the key word. That's the key word, hungry.
Yeah.
If there's any takeaway from this show, my listeners, is you have to want it. You have to be hungry. Ian didn't become successful, as we all know, because he had it. He wanted it because he didn't have it. He saw what other people had and he said, I want that. And the world doesn't owe me anything, and the world is not going to give it to me. I have to earn it my own way.
Yeah, that's totally true. I feel like you have to take accountability to change your life. And I think that's probably one of the things I value the most, because I never put blame on anybody for anything, like even my own failures, right? Because I know the moment you blame somebody else, it takes away the power for you to change it, right? But if you take accountability for anything, even if it's somebody else's problem, if you take accountability yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to fix it, or I won't let this happen again, that empowers you, right? So, I mean, that was basically me kind of growing up, going through college, and just really putting myself out there and failing and just trying to learn from that. So, anyway, back to Boston. That was the other big time in my life that kind of made me, that's really changed everything for me after that, right? Because I was doing crypto and I had some good money, but having that, I mean, having my investments in crypto and also having that extra income coming in from my Patreon at the time really told me, you know what, I can quit. So at the end of the month, I put in my resignation and left IBM, and I haven't looked back ever since then. Then the other part that's really been big for me was last year. This was around December 2018. I'm traveling in Cairo, Egypt. This is part of our Africa Crypto World Tour. So I'm in Cairo, Egypt in a hotel room. And I'm like, okay, I'm here in Egypt. My first time in Africa. I mean, the idea was to go back home to Uganda, right? I hadn't been home back in Uganda in over 21 years since I came to America. And I'm there in my hotel room. And I get people messaging me on my Telegram group.
You have a lot of epiphanies in hotel rooms.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where lots of stuff happens for me, right? It's kind of like my alone time because I basically live in a suitcase now, right? I travel a lot. And I'm there in the hotel room, and I begin getting death threats from people online. And it came to a point where I myself began to get scared. I'm like, are these people really coming after me? Right? So everywhere I was walking, I'm kind of looking over my shoulder, wondering, is there a hitman trying to come after me? And that was the first time I had really began to feel that, right? Because I was somebody who was used to adversity, right? Especially with people online on social media, right? So all the trolls, all the haters, or whatever you want to call them, I was used to that. But when it began getting violent and people basically putting out images of my head getting beheaded, things like that were now getting graphic, and it really dawned on me because I was there in the hotel room talking to my mom and dad on the phone on a three-way call as we were calling the FBI to file a report. And when I filed that report with my local police and with the FBI, that really told me, you know what? Now you have to really question everything in terms of why am I doing this? Like, is this worth it? I mean, so I've always wanted to go out there, evangelize crypto, help people. And yes, I'm definitely not perfect, right? I definitely have my ups and downs and my mistakes.
We all do.
But when it comes to a point where I'm there with my mom and my dad, and they're scared for me, as we're talking to the FBI, that really made me become even more reserved and not really as open with my community, right? To a point where some of them say, hey, Ian, you're kind of missing in action. You aren't posting as much. Because I'm not really saying, okay, yes, people will love you when they're making money. But as I was talking to Jeremy Garner the other day, right, he's been through several bull and bear markets. This was my first bear market in crypto, right? So at one point, people thought you're a crypto god.
Oh, yeah.
But when the market comes crashing down, people think
they hate on you.
You made everything go
been
down.
Been there, done
right?
that.
People think I made Bitcoin go down.
Yeah, they blame you. Listen, just like you said, people are going to blame you for anything. People are going to blame anyone else but themselves. So while the price is going up, you're a god, and the price is going down, it's your fault. That's just the way it is. And you should have called me when things like this were going to happen, because I would have told you, like, the best way to do it is to take a step back.
Yeah.
But why were people making death threats? I've had similar situations, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Someone stole my wife's phone number and texted me from it and threatened to kill me and said, I'll give you 30 wow. Bitcoin. Yeah, some crazy stuff has happened to me. But I mean,
yeah, I mean, I would say people, when crypto came down over 90% pullback, they wanted somebody to blame. So, and for me, I think I was a very easy target because I was out there, right?
Yes.
I posted my Blockfolio every day for over a year. I would get very excited about crypto and whatever I was investing in, right? To a point, people would think I was a big shill, and they liked that when they were making money. But once either they didn't take profits or sell, or they would hold all the way down, or whatever, then they viewed me as the person responsible for that.
And they almost wish you ill, besides for death threats. I remember there was a you got hacked, right? There was an issue with that. Yeah. And people, I was so shocked, and I said, is this my community? When I was reading that, because people were being so negative and saying, yeah, you deserve it. No one deserves that.
Yeah, I mean, so I got hacked probably 6 months before the death threats. But even, that as well, right? So people in my community as well, people that I thought loved me and were there as long-term supporters, flipped overnight, right?
Yes,
basically, at one of my lowest moments in crypto, people who I thought were going to be there for me abandoned me, right? And that's when it really made me kind of question everything as well. Right, because I said, okay, people are going to love you when things are good, but as soon as things get bad, not everyone is going to be there, right? But it also made me realize those people who stayed there with me, those are real friends, right? Even those people who I've never even met, who still support me no matter what, because they just kind of seen my journey and everything that's transpired. I mean, I can definitely empathize with them.
As a mining equipment broker, Scott Offord wants to make sure his clients are well-informed and making data-backed business decisions. Scott created the only free online tool for calculating profitability and days to ROI for miners. It's a better way to compare the efficiency of various models of ASIC miners and to see how the price of the miner and the efficiency impacts your mining profitability. So, check it out at cryptomining.tools and find Scott on Telegram and Twitter at OFFORDSCOTT. That's OFFORD SCOTT. eToro is crypto trading made easy. It's one of the largest and smartest trading platforms in the world with low and transparent fees. Join myself and 11 million other traders and create an account today at eToro.com. Links in the show notes, and build your crypto portfolio the smart way. In the hard times is when you learn who your real friends are. In 2014, I got arrested at the height of the bull market. So, preceding that, everyone was my best friend. Everyone loved me. Everyone was making money. I was on top of the world. And then I got arrested, and within one day, my whole life came crashing down. I had to literally, within one day, move from living in my own apartment above a nightclub to living back with my parents with an ankle bracelet. And that experience really taught me who my real friends were, because there were so many people that I thought were my friends that weren't, that just completely disappeared and left. But then there were other people who were not really good friends who stepped up to the plate and became my good friends. And I think one of the guards in jail for those 18 months in prison joked to me, and he said that I had the most visitors that any inmates ever had.
Oh, wow.
He said whenever, usually it's like an inmate has some similar friends and family. They come once a month, whatever it is. But every visiting, I'd had random people. I had one in a prison in Pennsylvania, right by State College. I had one of the only people. You have to show ID to visit someone in prison. I had one of the only people to actually use a passport to visit me in prison. He came from out of the country, came from Austria, flew.
That's incredible.
To Philadelphia just to visit me in prison, just to hang out and for a few hours and eat a microwave cheeseburger with me. And of course, my wife was there every visit, and she would like have to do a little orientation for people, like, hey, this is what you're gonna expect. I think one person like smelled like weed, and she's like, "You can't come inside because there are a lot of addicts in there. You're gonna that. But that's who you learn who your real friends are. I remember there were when I was living in my parents' house, people would show up with bottles of scotch. Just, hey Charlie, we want to hang out. But then there were people that I thought were my real friends. A perfect example is I had founded the Bitcoin Foundation in 2012, and the original board by that point wasn't the original board that my founders with, and the idea for the foundation was actually completely different than what it became. The idea for the foundation was to basically pool our resources together and have this take out billboards and TV ads and have this common pro Bitcoin message, and it ended up becoming this whole industry trade group that it wasn't meant to be. But that's a side conversation. Most of the original founders had left, and I was still there, and I was being pushed out. And the day I was arrested, I got the instead of the board of the foundation that had a lot of money at the time, they didn't care about me. The first call I got from the foundation was, "Yeah, Charlie, you need to resign from your vice chairmanship." And I was like, guys, I'm at my lowest point, and that's all you care about is the message of the foundation right now, and that hurt a lot because this was something that I had founded. And you really learn who your real friends are.
Yeah, absolutely,
But you know what? It makes you a better person, because now here we are about to go through another epic bull market, and those people who abandoned us are going to come back, and they're going to want to work with us. And I won't have any, and I'm sure you won't either. You won't have any ill will, and you won't have any anger towards these people. But at the same time, we're going to never forget. We're going to remember. We'll forgive. But we're never going to forget.
We can forget, but we can't forget.
And when it comes time for us to have to trust those people again, we're going to take a step back and say, why should I trust you when you weren't there during the hardest moments of my life? Where were you when I was getting death threats? That's what you saying. Where were you when people were coming after you? Where were you when I got hacked and I needed you to help me out?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what comes to mind are even other YouTubers or influencers that I've helped kind of mentor. And now they've gone to a point where they even have bigger followings than me on Twitter or wherever. But during my darkest moments, they didn't even mention anything about me. They didn't even stand up for me, right? Whether it's the fake tax allegations from the hack or whatever, they just kind of faded away, right? And now that we're kind of getting back into a nice bull market, I've kind of learned from everything. So now coming full circle, I'm more cautious. Right, so what I'm planning on is I want to empower people to make their own decisions for researching and investing in cryptocurrencies. I want to give them their own tools to empower themselves and kind of step away from being in the spotlight as that hot token picker. Right, so I'm trying to get away from being Jim Cramer and trying to give people their own tools to empower themselves. So now I'm focused on building.
You're giving away your tools essentially.
Yes, yeah. And basically, actually I'm building an even better tool and going to give that away to people, right? So I'm going back to being more of an entrepreneur and building, as opposed to being a pundit, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right, being out there online as a commentary and just kind of analyzing or being a influencer. Right, I want to go back to building because that's really to me what makes me happy. Right, I love building. I love getting something that's just an idea and bringing that into reality.
So in a few years from now, we're going to be having another conversation. Hopefully we'll have a lot of conversations between now and then, but we'll be having a conversation then, and we'll be talking about how successful your new company has been, and you built, and how many people you empowered, how many people were able to become financially independent, and we'll be talking about that. And you know what I'm going to say to you? I'm going to say, if you hadn't gone through that bull market in 2016, 2017, and been through all that good and bad and positive and negative and all that shit, then you wouldn't have been able to have built what we will be talking about in a few years from now. And when we talk about markets being efficient, when we allow them to be, that's what we mean.
That makes so much sense. And I mean, my life has been that. I've gone through the bull market, the top of the top, and I've gone all the way down to the bottom. And now having all of that now in me as experience has made me more aware in terms of, okay, next time, so in the future, and as I'm building this, I now have better perspective, right? So I'm not just somebody who's only one dimension now. I've kind of seen everything in terms of the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows. And I know when the new people come into this space, I'm going to be optimistic, but also cautious and well-mannered in terms of how I speak to them, how I create content for them, how I build this product for them.
What would you say to people that are coming to the space right now?
I mean, so my catchphrase is, what a time to be alive. Right? This is definitely a very...
You have a lot of catchphrases, and you trademark them all.
Yes, yeah. It's just something I love to do, right? Because I feel like it's part of the sales process.
It's
right?
assets.
You have to
have assets.
You have to give people something that communicates an idea very simply, right? And I feel like what a time to be alive really captures that. This is looking back, we're building the future. We're building a brand new internet, and looking back 20 years from now, we'll say we were there on the ground floor making stuff happen. But despite that, we also have to understand the risks involved, right? So similar to the dot-com era, we had lots of companies, dot-coms launch websites, do IPOs, but only a few giants remain, right? Amazon, Google, eBay. So we have to put that in perspective, right? When I joined the space, I was just throwing money at anything that could walk, anything that had a token on it. I thought could make money. Then eventually I began getting smarter, and I began doing research, and my system began to work pretty well, to a point where I was outperforming the market, right? So in a time where most ICOs, you could say 4 out of 5 were scams.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 of my investments were getting a 5x or higher. And that was good, but no system is perfect, right? So you have to really know that, okay, you know what? No matter how good things are, always be ready for the worst thing to happen. And in my case, I've had lots of other investments that have totally crashed and bombed. And that's happened to me publicly, to a point where everybody can see it. So I basically have to be more stoic, right? So even other people, as they're coming into the space, be stoic. When times are good, don't think you're a genius.
And diversify.
You know? Right? When times are bad, don't think you suck, right? So yeah, diversify, be stoic, right? This is a great time and great space to be in, but we have to be calm as we're going through this phase. It's kind of like as we're riding the boat on the ocean, we have to be stoic and calm.
I think a lot of my guests and a lot of crypto people that I meet suffer from imposter syndrome. Are you familiar with that?
Slightly.
So I didn't know what it was, and the listeners are going to be Googling it now. Mm-hmm. Imposter syndrome is as real as it can get, but it's a psychologically accepted disorder, mm-hmm. where highly successful people like ourselves the more successful we are, the less confident we become in ourselves, because we believe that we're imposters. We feel like the more successful we are, we shouldn't actually be successful. And I may be describing it wrong, but it's essentially we think of ourselves as unsuccessful when we are successful. And when I read that, I was like, wow, I actually understand this because I'm constantly thinking that I'm failing, but I'm succeeding. But I think it's not a disorder. I think it's a positive thing because it's constantly giving you drive. You're not happy with your current success, and you want to constantly become more successful. And I told you that personally, I don't gauge success by how much money I make. I gauge success, me personally, by how many people I employ. Because I feel like it's a very, I sleep at night knowing when I'm empowering people, they work for me, I give them health insurance, all these different things. That's something that I believe that it makes me a pro-social member of society. But completely off topic, different question I actually had. I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but what were some of the craziest pitches that you heard? I'm just curious.
Craziest pitches?
Yeah, like companies or tokens or projects where you literally were like putting the company on mute and saying to yourself, like, what the hell is this?
Oh, man.
I've heard
a few come to mind.
ones.
One was in Dubai. Some company was doing a security token for gold or something, trying to raise 250
For goats?
Gold.
Oh, gold.
Gold or
Okay.
something, trying to raise $250 million. One was banana coin.
What's banana coin?
Somebody was trying to tokenize bananas.
I love bananas.
And they obviously didn't know me that well because they know that would be an instant hard pass for me, right? Because I'm trying to focus on the technology, not really tokenizing bananas.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I've heard so many pitches that it's now kind of become noise, right? From people just trying to raise money with nothing that they think is going to change the world, and they have no experience, no product, no nothing, and they think by aligning with me that I'm going to publicly endorse them and help them achieve their goal. But I think if I had to really pick one, there was a company that wanted to bring me on as an advisor. This was back in, I think, early 2018. They were building an exchange, and I knew a friend of mine who was working with the company, and these guys had gone from owning a vitamin shop, basically.
Wait, like an actual vitamin shop?
Like a vitamin
Like website
or whatever,
okay.
to wanting to build an exchange the size of Coinbase. They seemed pretty successful. They had all the flashy stuff, right?
Sure.
They had some big names behind them as well, surprisingly. But they offered me to be an advisor, and they offered me $3 million.
Wow.
Right? And that was a lot of money.
Still is.
But when I was speaking with them, they didn't really want to take any advice from me.
They wanted your name.
They just wanted my name.
Yeah.
But what made me even more paranoid, they had the nerve to tell me, okay, you know what? Because I asked them, right? Because before I join any project, I'm known as a token metrics guy.
Sure.
I have to know what's going on with a token and the team and the whole token sale. So when I asked them, okay, what was the largest bonus given out? They told me the amount, and they told me, but please don't tell anybody about this. There was a secret seed round.
That's like the biggest red flag for me when someone tells me don't tell anyone else.
Yeah. I told them, do you know I can get in trouble for this with the SEC if I don't disclose this? Right? The fact that they wanted me to sign a contract with them and not disclose publicly that there was, so publicly they had these different rounds, but there was a super secret seed round that they didn't tell anybody about. And they wanted me to keep that a secret. And I told them, you know what, guys, thank you for the offer, but I cannot be a part of this. I'm out. So, I turned down $3 million. And now, today, that token is trading down 99%, I think almost 100% on exchanges. And it was definitely a money grab, a cash grab. And looking at things like that, now that I have a big name publicly, if I can help prevent things like that, I would love to keep on doing that, right? And at times it means that I have to publicly go out and basically roast or just tell the entire world about what's going on, right? But now I'm actually doing that right now with a different project, and now we're now getting into basically a legal dispute, right? So I'm kind
Oh,
of gonna let my lawyers handle that, but I know that makes me look bad as well, right? If that project goes out and does that, and I just stay quiet and don't say anything, that also tarnishes my image as well.
you can't put a value. There's no dollar amount for sleeping at night,
Yeah.
right? Like you want to be able to sleep at night knowing that you're okay and you did everything right, and to like constantly look over your shoulder or worry about something and stay up late at night, it's not worth $3 million.
Yeah, absolutely not. Right. So it's kind of what I've been going through with crypto. But I mean, I still think this is an amazing space. There definitely are lots of interesting and sometimes opportunistic characters, individuals. But I think overall, as a space, though, this has been a great space, right? In terms of the people I've met on my crypto world tour last year, we did 36 countries in about 12 months. Did every single continent, and to me, it was really about meeting people all over the world and hearing the stories in crypto.
You traveled to 36 countries.
Yes.
And today you're living this decentralized life. You're not based out of anywhere. What's that like? I mean, it's like a dream almost. It's cool, but at the same time, it just sounds exhausting. I'm tired. It sounds exhausting.
Yeah, it definitely does sound exhausting. It is. But for me, I get re-energized every time I go to a new country, to a new place, and meet my friends, the people there, meet new friends. That really keeps me going on, right?
What are the logistics of living a decentralized life?
I just live in a suitcase. I travel somewhere. I travel for about anywhere from 1 to 3 months.
How
Then
many
I go.
outfits do you have that you don't need to do laundry?
Oh man, I mean, at sometimes because I don't know when I'm coming back, right? Because my base is in Washington D.C.
Okay.
But I may be gone for 1 month to 3 months, and sometimes I run out of clothes and I just keep on buying new clothes.
You keep on buying new
Because I'm very bad at doing laundry, and I'm lazy, so at times I just keep on buying new clothes, and I say, you know what, it just kind of works out for me this way. But typically we stay in Airbnbs or hotels, right? I'm a points guy, as I was telling you earlier.
Sure.
All right, I'm a Hilton, Diamond, Marriott's ambassador, Platinum, all that.
Yeah.
And I have businesses I'm running globally, right? So if I can get points for my business and use that to even stay for free, I mean, that helps the travel even more.
You had a crazy story that you stayed for free in a really nice hotel.
Yeah, I had about 680,000 American Express points that I was able to transfer over to Hilton and get like almost 2 million points, which let me stay in a 5-star hotel in New York for a week, 7 days for free.
Wow.
And I mean, things like that I love, right? Because New York is a great city. I can be there for a week. We ended up investing in a company that was part of Techstars over there.
I know it has nothing to do with crypto, but I need to get Brian Kelly, the points guy, on this show.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's he's amazing.
He is.
Love his work. But for me, traveling, ever since I was a kid, I've always loved traveling. People don't know this about me, but my best subject in school was social studies. Not math, even though I'm an engineer, not science, social studies. So when I was a kid back in Uganda, my dad bought me an atlas that had lots of different maps and also a geography book. And I would read that book and reread it every single day, just learning about different cultures. Like they would show us America, the maps of America, the different states. They'd also have the different foods. Like in America, they like hamburgers and pizza and things like that. I was just reading about other countries. And to me, that was my favorite subject, to a point where all throughout high school, I always got A's in social studies. And it was so easy for me that I said, you know what, let me become an engineer. Because I knew it was my favorite subject, but I also knew this probably won't make me much money, right? Because liberal arts at that time wasn't really something that... And I love computers as well. So after I've kind of done the whole being an engineer thing and kind of become successful, my goal when I quit IBM was to travel the world. And I began doing that. And if I can combine that with meeting people in the crypto space and blockchain space, even better.
You remind me of a funny story. It's the Untold Stories of Charlie. So I'm sitting in the prison library one day, and I know any story that starts with the prison library. because you said Atlas, and so in jail there are no computers, right? There's no cell phones, internet, and so I'm sitting in there, and I see like 5 or 6 guys huddled over this big Atlas, and I'm saying, that can't be good. Whatever they're talking about is not a good thing. And I know these guys. One guy was a high-powered immigration attorney. The other one was actually a former diplomat. And the other 2 guys were like, one guy was a very high executive at Walmart who was in there for bribery, and a bunch of other guys. I walk over to them and I say, hey guys, what are you guys doing? And they looked at me very serious and they said, we're planning on buying a large chunk of Russia and seceding from Russia and creating our own country. And
Wow.
yeah, and I was like, so what are they having in the cafeteria for dinner tonight? And I walked away saying, the scariest part is that these guys can actually probably pull that off. Mm-hmm. That's the story that you remind me of when you said Atlas. And I love geography too. And you're right. You can't make money. But you know what, though? When you can make money doing something that you may not love, it empowers you to be able to do something that you do love. But when you can love what you're doing, it's not really work, right? And we love what we're doing. I love doing this show. You love working in crypto, and we're all very fortunate. What did I say? We're psychologically unemployable.
Yes. Yeah.
Suit and tie, 9-to-5 office, can't do it.
I mean, I feel like you have to be, though, right? If you want to really, at least for us, to change the world and kind of get our ideas out there. I mean, I'm known for being very difficult to work with because I don't like to settle, right? I keep on raising the bar.
Sure.
All right, like I was talking to Diego the other day, my business partner. He's just kind of surprised at how constantly I'm pushing the bar and I'm raising the bar. Like we'll go out there, do something, then we'll raise the bar 10 times. Then we'll do that, then we keep on raising the bar.
It's exhausting.
And he says, wow, like when do you stop? And I say, when you stop, that's when you stop at everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's when you really lose a purpose to living. Right? So to me, going back to talking about money, right? It's not about the money. Because people hear me say, hey, I want to be a billionaire and buy a basketball team. But to me, it's not really about the money. It's about the journey. Right? And I feel like once you become successful at something and you stop, you just kind of, I mean, like, what's there to do? Go on a beach and be there for 10 years?
I live on the beach.
But I feel like you have to make new journeys for you. It gets boring. Right? So to me, it's about learning the process, right? Learning the journey, right? That's why I even called myself Diary of a Made Man, because it was what really helped me the most was falling in love with the process of success.
Diary of a Made Man is very interesting because you're saying that I'm already made and this is my diary. This is now what I'm doing. What else incentivizes you? What else gets you out of bed gets you out of bed in the morning when you've already been successful? And what's the answer to that?
Just make a brand new goal, something you want to do, and fall in love with that process going towards there. All right, so I'll tell you the story behind Diary of a Made Man. So the whole story of becoming a made man comes from understanding the journey you have to get to where you are and understanding the why it was worth it. Right? So for me, right, the journey of coming as a kid from Uganda to America, going through school, and I mean, my parents didn't really have much money, right? My parents were immigrants from Uganda. They were students. They had to work on a visa for almost 10 years until they could get a green card and become naturalized, right? So even though I had the grades in high school, I couldn't really get any financial aid because I was still an international student, right? So having to pay those kind of high tuition prices and seeing kids who weren't really as smart as me getting scholarships and federal aid and loans made it even tougher for me. And I recall I was basically eating Happy Meals through college, right? Either Happy Meals or I'll just pack myself a ham sandwich, right? Just like bread, ham, and cheese every day. And to go from that and to go through almost getting kicked out of school from losing my academic scholarship because I wasn't keeping on par with my grades, to then going to grad school and having to pay everything myself, and then graduating that to a point where at one point I thought I wouldn't graduate. I technically had to take 2 more classes to graduate, and I think there might even have been a clerical error on one class, right? But I was there at graduation, and a professor came to me and said, "Hey, oh wow, you graduated."
Well,
I was there with my family and my
That's really
parents
mean.
in my cap and gown, and this guy had the nerve to come up to me and get shocked and say, "Wow, you graduated."
well, that's why he's a college professor and not sitting in
Right.
this chair.
So having to go through all of that and going from eating Happy Meals basically every day to then overnight getting my first job at Deloitte Consulting as an IT consultant. And then after that, didn't really have to worry about money ever since then. And it really made me say, wow, like the success when I got my first corporate job, it came overnight. Because unlike most kids, I've never had an allowance my entire life. Like even when I would get gifts during birthdays or holidays, my parents would take that money.
Really?
Right? Because they would have to pay the bills, to buy food, to put bread on the table, right? So I've never had an allowance my entire life, right? The only thing that maybe I would get is probably like a video game, right? But having to go through all of that and then, boom, overnight, never having to worry about money ever again, I was like, wow, I've made it. I was like, Mama, I've made it. And it's at that instant when that moment happens that I say, you know what? Now I know why this journey was so hard to get here. Now everything I've had to do, to sacrifice, to do, now it makes sense. It's basically like going through a tunnel. And when you finally get at the end of the tunnel, you realize why this journey was very difficult. Because I had friends of mine, some of them were even smarter than me, but they didn't make it from high school. Either they got into the wrong things, got involved in drugs, got involved with girls or whatever, and now they're still at home, either working as a bouncer at a club or just kind of getting in trouble, basically, right? So for me to now look back and see where I am, I'm now even more grateful with my mom and dad and kind of how they instilled in me the discipline and sometimes how they forced it on me, right? Because one slip up and I may not be where I am today. So now looking back on the journey, I can say, wow, I've made it, right? And that's where the whole concept of a made man comes from. And the diary is documenting those small incremental steps where one small thing could have gone wrong and you would not be where you are.
And the past is not dead. It's not even past.
Yeah.
You're constantly creating new memories. You're constantly growing and creating new ones. What do your parents think of all this?
I mean, they're very proud of me, right? They're more conservative than I was, right? So when I told them, hey, I'm going to quit my nice job and go out in crypto world, they're like, are you sure about this? Right? Even when I was going to change over from being an engineer to working in sales, they're also kind of nervous. But they know I'm a risk taker and they've always believed in me. And I think also having them as my safety net has also helped me take big risks, right? For example, quitting my job at IBM. I knew worst case, right? If I had no home, I could go live in my parents' basement.
And you've seen your parents, though, when you moved to this country. You've lived your parents having to make it. Your parents are your parents wrote their own diaries of made men and women, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I've learned so much from them, right? And even to this day, right? People say, why not get a place or whatever, right? I mean, I love traveling. I love being decentralized. But it's probably funny to some people, but I'm a millionaire. But technically, you could say I still live with my parents. Right? Because,
they do the laundry, though.
Yeah, right? So, I had my place about half an hour away from
Sure.
them. But I didn't want to keep that place as I'm traveling the world. So I just got out of broke the lease, put all my stuff in my parents' place.
Yeah.
And I just travel the world. Then when I get tired, I come back to them for like a week or two. Then I go back to traveling the world.
It's so funny because the cosmopolitan world is like, you have to live by yourself and you have to create this whole thing. And I would make fun of that. But I literally went from living with my parents to living with my now current wife. Like I never actually lived alone either. I always need to have like a woman take care of me.
I'm very thankful for them, right? They've definitely helped me a lot and they've helped me get to where I am. And A person asked me the other day, like who who inspires me the most, right? And I mean, to me, it's really my dad, because he came from a village in Uganda, right? He came from a village, basically like a village with no electricity,
like bamboo and thatched huts.
Yeah, like either like huts or just like houses with just cement.
Yeah.
Right. No running water or power for the most part. He came from there, and he was a valedictorian all through high school. Got a scholarship to go to college. Was the best in his class. Got a scholarship to go to the UK for grad school for 2 years in England. Was the best in his class there. Then got a scholarship to come to America at Penn State.
Wow. And
brought the entire family here. Right? So looking at that journey, and now he's staying in a nice house in one of the best parts of DC. So looking at that journey to where we are now and where he came from, when I went back last year in December on my homecoming in Africa, I mean, to me, it's incredible, right? Because the only way he got out of there was through education. And that's why now I can really understand why to them it was nothing but education, right? Because when you're growing up in Africa, I mean, not every kid is going to go play for Barcelona or play soccer,
yeah,
right? Or become the next musician or whatever, or Hollywood star. Like the best consistent way out from the villages in Africa was education, right? And that's why my parents were both professors, right? And even to a point where it comes from, like, if you go back and look through in my entire family line, my mom's great grandfather, when the British came to Africa during colonialism, they took my mom's great grandfather to England to study and come back and teach people in Uganda and the villages, right? And ever since then, we've kind of had that educational teaching discipline in our family. And now it's kind of come full circle with me, where I'm trying to teach and empower people through education in the crypto space.
What a crazy story. To think that your family came from a village and you're the son of that, and here you are today. That's such an insane story, and I don't think anyone knew about this. So thank you for opening up on the show. Thank you for telling us your story, and hopefully inspire my listeners to be able to. I think the takeaway is to don't have the fear. And the worst thing that could happen to you is you fail. And the worst thing that happens to you is you go down and you start all over again. But when you start from the bottom, that you started from the bottom, then you're here, like that song. Mm-hmm. When you literally start from the bottom with nothing and you have nothing to lose, that's when you have the most to gain.
Yeah, it definitely puts everything in perspective.
Ian Balina, thank you so much for coming on the show. How can people follow you?
So find me at ianbalina.com. That's where I post most of my content. On Twitter and social media, I'm Diary of a Made Man. On Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. And thank you so much for having me on the show, Charlie. It's a pleasure, and I'm very humbled to be here.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. This episode of Untold Stories is sponsored by Scott Offord, the creator of crypto mining. Scott's a broker of ASIC mining gear and helps people buy and sell their miners. He created a Bitcoin mining profitability calculator and an interactive ASIC hardware comparison chart that you can find at cryptomining.tools. It's the only free online tool for calculating profitability and days to ROI. That includes the impact of the Bitcoin block reward halving. The calculator lets you put in your estimated uptime to give you a more realistic profit projections. So check it out and find Scott on Telegram and Twitter at OFFORDSCOTT. This episode of Untold Stories is sponsored by eToro, the smartest crypto trading platform and one of the largest in the world, with over $1 trillion in trading volume per year. U.S. customers can trade the most popular crypto assets with low and transparent fees. And if you're not ready to trade yet, practice building your crypto portfolio with the eToro $100,000 virtual trading feature. Best of all, you can connect with 11 million other eToro traders around the world, myself included, to discuss trading, charts, and all things crypto. Create an account at eToro.com. Links in the show notes, and build your crypto portfolio the smart way. New episodes go live every Tuesday at 7 a.m. EST. Links to our Apple and Spotify channels are in the show notes. You can also follow me on Twitter, Charlie Shrem, to continue the conversation. See you next week.